All right, we are back with another reflection on the Daily Vedantic, and this is one of my favorite principles within Vedanta. Another word for Vedanta is Sanatana Dharma, which means eternal principles. And within this philosophy, it, in many ways, could list out these eternal principles that are the manual for not only living life well, but getting pretty much everything that you want. I say pretty much because some of the things that you might start off wanting when you pick up a book like Vedanta Treatise or listen to a video like this might not be what you want a year in. But what is beneath that? What do you really want beneath that? And this philosophy is actually quite explicit. What we are all after is liberation, freedom. And just above that, we chase that through peace and prosperity. And I know that those two words, peace and prosperity, that is what I get so entangled with. And now I just chase it in my late 30s in a vastly different way than I chased it when I was 22 or 25. But chasing peace and prosperity all the same. Now I just have a manual on how to approach it and how to get it most efficiently versus having no manual in my 20s and chasing it by trying to build billion-dollar companies, making whatever lists of validation of founders, entrepreneurs, doing big things in the world, trying to get notoriety. But this episode isn't about any of that. This episode is about one of my favorite principles within the philosophy of Vedanta, Titiksha. Titiksha is a Sanskrit word that means finding a pleasure, a joy in discomfort. I love this principle so much because we don't have anything like it here in the West. It's not just enduring discomfort. It's not just, as they say, getting into a cold plunge. Go into the discomfort. That isn't it. In fact, it's worlds apart when you add this first part into the definition. Finding joy in discomfort. Joy in discomfort. A pleasure from discomfort. And Titiksha, that discomfort that we find pleasure in, is oriented around what we're doing for others or for our own development. So don't just endure or go into that discomfort of that cold plunge, that workout, the abstaining from that pint of ice cream that you want to buy, abstaining from that gossip about that friend that your other friends want to indulge in. It's not just going into the discomfort of like, okay, I'm not going to say anything as they're talking about this. But it's actually cultivating a joy in that discomfort. All right, this is uncomfortable. I don't really want to participate in this gossip. It's not going to serve me well. It's going to reinforce a negative pattern as these people are bitching and moaning about their spouses. I'm just not going to indulge in that because I don't want to feed that pattern of thought. And find joy in that discomfort when you're on the quieter side, when everybody else is talking and maybe looking for a little validation from you. Same thing for that gym session. Same thing for that really hard conversation at work. Same thing for, maybe it might be negotiating for a raise for yourself. And you've been avoiding that discomfort. How's it going to go? Or you're a startup founder and you have this immense discomfort around telling investors that you lost their money or that it's not going very well. And you're choosing to stay silent, but something tells you to go into that discomfort. Have that conversation. Where Titiksha takes us, that so far beyond our conventional notions here in the West, is that it tells us to find joy in that. Find joy in that hard conversation. Find joy in that hard gym session. We touched on this in a recent episode that our neurochemistry around motivation, This is so fascinating from Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist from Stanford. I've heard this maybe 2 years ago and found it so fascinating that I jotted it down verbatim and reiterated this in a previous episode. But repetition is power when it comes to reflection. And it's so easy to hear one thing, it's in one ear, out the other. So I'll say it again when it comes to tiksha and finding joy in discomfort. Is that's actually how we reprogram our mindsets. What Dr. Huberman said is that the most powerful thing about our neurochemistry around motivation is that we can change it, is that we can program it. By telling ourselves we are enjoying something that is hard for us, over several weeks, we will start to rewire our programming to release our neurochemicals of enjoyment based on the act that previously we were doing everything we wanted to do, everything we could do to avoid it. That exercise regimen, that long commute to a job that you know is well worth it. We can actually rewire our programming to have these neurochemical rewards based on the thing that maybe today you want to avoid at all costs. My wife and I, we've got a cold plunge. We do it every morning. 44 degrees, 2.5 minutes, often when it's already cold, early in the morning before the day starts. That is not easy. It was not easy. Now it actually is pretty easy for both of us. And we started to associate joy, reiterating, oh, this is great because of XYZ reasons on the other side of it, how great you're going to feel. This is great because of a reinforcement of discomfort. But really, in my mind, it was reinforcing, oh, there's joy in this. There's joy in this. There's joy in this. It's going to remove the pain in my joints so that I can be an even better dad, so that I can focus on my work without distraction. It's going to be this neural reinforcement, this intellect over mind of, all right, I am more than just what my mind prefers, likes and dislikes. There are all kinds of different benefits to it. But what is so wild is that you can program yourself to enjoy these things. It's tiksha in action. It's the same for a longer than you might typically wanted nighttime routine with your kids. A 45-minute commute when none of your friends have one. Finding joy in discomfort when it is in the service of others or yourself is not only a unique, valuable, amazing, integral principle within this philosophy, but it's actually how we can change our minds, how we can subdue and overcome our minds and rewire us for the higher, for what is better for us and our communities. Tiksha is one hell of a principle. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Daily Vedantic. This reflection is part of a free repeating 2-year course in Advaita Vedanta. Rooted in the timeless wisdom of the Upanishads, arguably the oldest philosophical texts on earth, you can begin with episode 1, which gives the 15-minute overview of the whole philosophy of Vedanta, or you can join the journey with any episode at any point. But the critical aspect of this course, of understanding and mastering anything, is to study and reflect, even for 10 to 15 minutes on the timeless each day, preferably at the start of your day. As is said in this philosophy, reflection is 100,000 times as powerful as listening. So listen, journal, sit with, discuss these concepts, or ask questions at thedailyvedantic.com with our AI-powered chatbot, informed by about 700 episodes here, as regularly as one can, if you want to see clarity and peace almost effortlessly unfold in your daily life. And if it doesn't result in a near immediate increase in clarity and peace, then toss aside and feel free to never listen again. One of the things that you might notice is after 7 or 8 days in a row, this doesn't feel like a discipline. This feels like a visit with a best friend, to dive into the timeless with daily reflection. Within a few days, it becomes one of your favorite parts of the day. You can also find out more, including news about in-person events in Los Angeles and beyond, at the Daily Vedantic on Instagram or through our weekly newsletter at thedailyvedantic.com. Additionally, check out the links in our show notes for more resources like the books that are mentioned most frequently in the episodes, including Vedanta Treatise, perhaps the simplest and most straightforward read on this philosophy I've ever come across. Until next time, and from the entire team that works on the Daily Vedantic project, thanks for listening.